I've only lived out here for like 6 years, and apparently this is supposed to be like the worst they've had.
We're not known for rain.
All right, so right now I'm prepping for Hurricane Hillary that's supposed to be hitting down here. It's one of the worst storms that's going to be hitting here in 80 years. I don't know what to expect, but I saw a tweet this morning in regards to the genning Pokemon at World, and I wanted to talk more about that. So this morning when I woke up, I got recommended this tweet by Caphonics discussing a bunch of rental teams that went public after Worlds, and they were able to go through a bunch of these rental teams and figure out which Pokemon on those teams were legitimate or genned. And gen Pokemon, for the most part, indistinguishable to regular Pokemon. So there's a speculation that the people that got DQ'd at Worlds, the reason why was because the Pokemon they genned in, they were just being lazy about it, and they didn't add in a home tracker data to these Pokemon. I understand that you can pretty much modify all the stats. There's no way to even tell if someone gens correctly. There was apparently a notice a week before the tournament. Pokémon Company pretty much told everyone competing that they are going to take this hack check a lot more serious. Based on this sample size from this tweet, a pretty solid portion of Pokemon that are competing in these tournaments are not legitimate Pokemon. I understand, I'm not trying to defend how Pokemon and Gamefreak have designed VGC, how to make EVs, how to catch your Pokemon, IVs, all that. Like, I am legitimately not trying to defend the current state of what the game is. Do I think someone who gens has a competitive edge over me? If you were talking about how the game functions, how Pokemon work, how abilities work, how moves work, no, I mean, that's the conversation every VGC player who's defending genning is trying to say, is there's no competitive advantage to a genned Pokemon versus a non-genned because they're all the same, and it all comes down to how the player plays out the match. The thing that they for some reason skip over, and they for some reason do not think of it as a competitive advantage. They don't grind Terra Shards, and they're not grinding for IVs. And it blows my mind as someone who's actually sat there and done Terra Raids to get Terra Shards, and maybe I'm a fool for playing the game how it is, but it's extremely disheartening as someone who's played the game how it's intended. I've found ways to play with my limitations of Pokemon that I'm available to use that are min-max stats. So the argument from VGC players is no one wants to grind the game and do the grunt work, and they want to focus entirely on the competitive aspect of the game, which is understandable, but how can someone think that that's not a competitive edge versus someone who is grinding Terra Shards, resetting for IVs? I mean, let's be real. Gen Pokemon will never disappear. But my complaint is this is not a level playing field. And if we really want a level playing field, the only thing Pokemon Company and Gamefreak can do is to open accessibility for these Pokemon, for IVs, for all of this stuff, that even if these players are genning their Pokemon still, at least give regular players who are playing the game legitimately the means to acquire the same stat Pokemon without sitting there soft resetting non-stop for hours on end. Understand, like I said at the beginning of this video, I think this game really does need to update. I don't think there's a way you can combat genning without leveling the playing field. And I'm a firm believer that if we're playing a competitive game and the playing field is not even, then it's not fair. It's not fair, and anyone who's trying to justify because they didn't want to take the time to grind is really just missing the point here. Like, I can't invest my own personal time in a game that I'm playing legitimately, and I'm facing people that have all the time in the world to practice they can min-max the best strategies. They don't have to really worry about hurdles and getting certain Pokemon. They can just focus on exploiting the comps, sitting there focusing entirely on breaking the meta, figuring out the best EV spreads. And I have played with the limitations given to me. I was talking about in my last video, I've never run in DD because I personally will not run in a DD that doesn't have the min-max stats. It needs a 0 attack, 0 speed. And was I going to sit there and hunt in DD? No. Pokemon is a franchise that throughout a lot of their games, like Pokemon Go and the main series games, especially in the DS era, they are trying to balance the playing field of a game based on having different IVs and stat products. And obviously, throughout the history of Pokemon competitive, people have always min-maxed their stats. You don't see people go in the worlds running like a 27 IV HP in something or whatever. You know, everyone has the perfect IV spread for what they desire. And it was even worse in the DS era where you needed hidden power, which was only acquired by certain IV combinations. And obviously people wanted to maximize the IVs that they could have while still getting the correct hidden power type. But yeah, I was just blown away by this because read this even. So understand that it wasn't even necessarily that this Pokemon's gen, they modified it. So they had a Mungus in their party that had 18 attack IV and they modified it to have 0. Understand, like out of all the Pokemon on this team, a Mungus, you could breed that with ease with a Power Bracer and a Ditto. And you got yourself your Mungus. It's insane to me. This person's getting called out for an Amoonguss on his team being modified. Like, that's insane. Like, how lazy. Here's another fun example, apparently. Tang Shilling, sorry if I say that wrong. Apparently they beat Wolfglick in the deciding final round of day 1. Apparently 2 of their max layer genies are missing their RNG correlation, so they're 100% hacked. So there's 2 Pokemon on this person's team who, in fact, beat Wolfglick, beat other players who were spent their whole season doing well, and it's like, holy smokes. Like, this is actually insane that this person has a shiny Golden Go on their team. How is this not, like, how is the Golden Go not the thing that's hacked? I mean, there's no way that's a 0 attack Golden Go. I mean, maybe they got lucky, but that's insane to me. One thing I think is interesting too, no one talks about how you can get these Pokemon Go also. Like, you can get a Landorus from Pokemon Go and it'll work. Like, there's people who are hardcore raiders in the Pokemon Go community that have extras of some of these Pokemon.
Off the record, I'd say around 80 to 90% of serious players in the Western circuit gen their Pokemon.
This is crazy to me. And like, I'm not surprised particularly by Frieze saying this. That's a pretty big assumption to make about Western players. I guess I'm an anomaly here. Like, that's crazy to hear.
Is part of the culture, and the default expectation is that you gen your Pokemon. Nobody views it as immoral because your skill as a battler doesn't depend on how well you can mash the A button.
See, this is the thing. I agree with this sentiment. 24K votes and 92% say I don't care if someone gens in a tournament. Oh my gosh. I feel like such an idiot spending my time training my Pokemon and like playing the game how it's supposed to play. Like, where was my notice?
Catching and training Pokemon is almost wholly a grind. You grind menial tasks.
Yeah, that's a part of the game right now. I spend my precious time to play the game how it's supposed to. I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking about all the time I've invested grinding Terra Shards and actually playing the game legitimately just to get resources. This is the standard apparently for most people. And I'm not trying to act like it is a moral high ground. It's just, I'm not playing the game like that. I legitimately am not playing the game like that, and you're trying to tell me that there's no competitive advantage to you being able to pick any Pokemon in the Pokedex and acquire it, min-max the correct IV spread without putting virtually any time aside, all the time that you're able to invest in strategizing and practicing while I'm out there doing the grunt work. And I can't invest just purely in playing the game competitively.
It's a hot topic because there are people who view it as cheating because the rules do say that genning is not allowed. Rules banning genning make sense from the company's point of view.
Like, if every player genned, then yeah, I don't see how that's a competitive advantage. But as I've been saying, I might be the anomaly here. I might be the only person who doesn't gen on the Western scene. That's the main reason why I want to make this video, is because I don't think people understand that regardless of what they feel should be the way the game functions, it's not functioning that way currently. So you are, by default, getting an advantage against other players. Isn't that crazy? All I really wanted to say with this video is I'm just retiring currently from playing Pokemon very seriously. I would rather play the game casually, shiny hunt, collect, battle casually on the ladder. But as of right now, it's just not in my heart to take the effort to want to be the very best in the world. I hope Pokemon can try to make their game more accessible for players, but yeah, I'm not going to waste any more of my time trying to sit here and build legitimate teams when pretty much all these people are saying, doesn't matter, there's no point. there's no competitive advantage. Thanks again for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, if you agree, definitely consider liking, commenting, subscribing. And with that being said, Sasquatch's getting stronger each and every day. Good morning, evening, afternoon, ever tuning in. And I'll catch you in the next one.